Hello, everybody, and welcome to an emergency edition of Tunnel Vision. I'm your host, Keely Eure, joined by Shotgun Spratling and Ryan Abraham. Those two gentlemen will be breaking down the news alongside me, of course. The news that broke today: USC's new offensive coordinator, Kliff Kingsbury, is now the head coach for the Arizona Cardinals. A shocking turn of events, and I guess the last 48 hours or so, USC is now without an offensive coordinator and maybe a running backs coach. We'll see how that develops. But guys, first off, your reactions of what happened. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's been a crazy couple of days with the first news kind of breaking mostly on the NFL side at first. And it really sent shockwaves through Twitter when it came out that USC had blocked, or apparently, reportedly, according to some of the NFL reporters, blocked Kliff Kingsbury from interviewing for head coaching positions in the NFL. The two programs we heard about were the New York Jets and the Arizona Cardinals. And kind of last night, more things started to break, and it seemed to be focusing more on the Arizona Cardinals job. Both of those positions, you're talking about coaching a Sam Darnold or a Josh Rosen, so you get a really good quarterback to coach there. And then today, I think about noon Pacific is when it broke. I mean, it was pretty much understood, and then it just kind of went through pretty quick. There's already a video up on the Arizona Cardinals website. As Shotgun pointed out, it's now the Arizona Cardinals with a K for Kliff Kingsbury. So it happened pretty fast, and USC sort of holding the bag here because that was the one big move they made, and the one thing that was they were touting to the potential season ticket holders for the renewals. Hey, you got Kliff Kingsbury coming in. It's going to be a really exciting offense. Now you don't. So really kind of strange situation, but last couple of days just kind of whirlwind and happened.
I'm just kind of glad it's over, for one.
Oh, a lot of people are.
I mean, because there's just been so much up in the air. You finally have a resolution to it. So I even said, I was covering the basketball game the other day and said, I'm just going to be happy when it's done, when there's a resolution one way or the other, because then USC fans can move on to either getting excited about spring football and what's going to happen there, or move on to trying to find who's going to be the next offensive coordinator, figuring out if this offense can rebound, because the offense is still is stuck in last year. Are you going to find someone now? Does Clay Helton have enough confidence in whoever he's able to hire to turn over the full reins of the offense, or is Clay Helton going to be calling the plays again? Does it go back to that? Does it revert? So now that's the next step. Now that's what we move to. I'm glad we're done with the resolution of Kliff Kingsbury. Good for him that he was able to get a head coaching job.
100%.
The pathway that he took to get there is kind of unbelievable.
Baffling.
Yeah.
I mean, Dabo Swinney the other night said no one could write this story. That little old Clemson, people could write that story.
You won it 2 years ago, yeah.
Yeah. Now Kliff Kingsbury making it, that's a little bit of a story. You're like, wait, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
If you're watching that in a movie, you're like, what?
Fired from your alma mater, never finished higher than tied for 5th in the Big 12, which is not, some power conference. And it makes sense to get the offensive coordinator job at USC. I think he liked it. He likes the talent. No one really expected, though, that NFL programs, NFL franchises would reach out to him. Yes, as an offensive coordinator for sure, but not as a head coach. But that's what this league is like. It's a copycat league. You saw several years ago when the Wildcat became popular, everyone had to run the Wildcat. What's hot right now? Patrick Mahomes, who coached him in college, Kliff Kingsbury. Baker Mayfield might be the rookie of the year. Who coached, talk about Kingsbury. And you got Sean McVay. Hey, what coach is going to work?
Most importantly, Sean McVay.
Because he was hired from, young guy, out of obscurity, offensive mind. And really the success he had taking over Jeff Fisher's Rams that were one of the worst offensive teams in the nation, in the NFL, to the best overnight. Just that's how you can do it with a young offensive mind. So they will maybe sometimes put a square peg in a round hole and say, hey, this is what we want. We want a young offensive mind. I think he can be successful, but it seems like a reach to me. But certainly, I'm not blaming Kliff Kingsbury. If someone offered you some amazing raise and an amazing job at a much higher level, I think you take it 100%.
Yeah, I think that you don't blame him for taking this job. How it played out is unfortunate as far as, hey, he was at the job for 34 days. USC got a $150,000, payment for basically renting an office.
Wow.
So if you've ever seen the WeWork, where you rent a workspace, that's what it was. Yeah. He rented a workspace at USC for $150,000. Now that number, is not very good for USC, because if you have the guy that is the hottest name on the market, then you probably should be sticking a buyout in there that's at least $500,000, or at least half of what his salary is. We don't know exactly what he was making, but probably half of what his salary is. That would be, in my opinion, a normal buyout, 40 to 50%. But USC gets $150,000 out of it for 34 days of renting the office.
And that part of the issue is, we're jumping down this rabbit hole, but it's real quick. So Manny Diaz gets hired by Temple to be their head coach. His buyout was $4 million. Now, Temple, there was more. You're taking a risk. It's Manny Diaz's first chance to be FBS head coach. 20 days later, or less than that, Miami comes calling, and they have to pay the $4 million. Now, I think Manny Diaz wasn't in the power position. He's a first-time head coach. The problem for USC is, and this, I'm not. There's a lot of blame for USC in this, but I'm not blaming everything on USC. The problem is USC. This was all eggs in one basket. USC was a 5-7 team that had a lot of talent that was underachieving. The way to fix it, if you wanted to do the model like Brian Kelly did, was to replace a lot of people. USC elected not to do that. They made one big replacement, and that was Kliff Kingsbury. So it was a home run hire, 100%. I think it would have worked great. You would have seen this offense score 40, 45 points a game. But because you put all those eggs in one basket, Kingsbury wanted to come to USC too, but USC wasn't in a power position when it comes to that. You have a first-time athletic director, probably not, he's doing a lot of this stuff himself. There's no president in place. Seemed like the agents got the better of this. Only $150K. I know USC is in a position of power, but man, that just seems like a really low buyout. But because of that, I don't know what USC could have put into the contract, because really that's the thing that was going to, it was going to work perfectly for USC and for Kliff Kingsbury, because he could have come to USC, turned him around, won a bunch of games, scored a lot of points, and then other people later on would want to hire him. He'd probably only be around a year, maybe two. The problem is no one expected that an NFL team would come along right now and take him. So there's no really reason to build up your reputation at USC if you can go get a job right now. That's basically what you were looking for.
Yeah, I mean, if you have the opportunity to make that big jump, I mean, the highest echelon of football coaching is an NFL head coach. Now, NFL head coaches' shelf life can be very short.
Sure.
Steve Wilkes was with Arizona. They just fired him after one season.
1 year.
And there were a couple other coaches, they had 1 or 2 seasons. It can be a very short tenure. Now, I don't know that it's the best move for him, in his career path. Is he ready to go and coach an NFL team? I don't know. But, sometimes there's an opportunity you can't pass it up. Same thing with Lane Kiffin when he came to USC. I don't think it was right for him career-wise. If that was his dream job, he should have stuck it out at Tennessee, learned a little bit more there for a year or two more, seeing the SEC play, and then came back to USC potentially and see how it worked out there. But, it's hard to turn down, like, oh my God, this is such a great job. It might not be the best thing for me right now, but am I going to turn down a couple $1 million? And it's also security too. He has even if he does get fired after 1 year, like Steve Wilkes, he does have a contract for 4 years with an option for a 5th. So there's a much bigger buyout on the end of that. So there's financial security there as well. So there's a lot of things that would be very hard for anyone to turn down in this position. For USC, I don't really blame them. I think you can put blame on a lot of things around the Kliff Kingsbury, with the buyout potentially, if that number is correct, as we've heard, or with, not changing a lot of the other things. But I can't really blame USC for saying, that's the hottest guy on the market, I'm going to go get him.
Right.
Now, USC, maybe they had a chance to counteroffer, but are you really going to be able to challenge as an offensive coordinator at college versus a head coach in the NFL? No.
The only thing USC could have done, and Dan Weber brought this up, is realizing that, like, oh my God, NFL teams are coming after this guy. We're not going to be able to keep him unless we make him the head coach. If they would have done that, then you might have been able to keep him. I don't think there's anything else you could have done as far as once the NFL bug, once they caught wind of that. And it's weird too, because the coaching schedule has changed in college football because of the early signing period. You wanted to get these guys in place early. They wanted to get Kliff Kingsbury signed in early December because a few weeks later you had the early signing period. So you needed somebody in place, and so that's moved things up. The NFL calendar hasn't changed. College football has. Once he became a hot name, I think the only thing Lynn Swann could have done at that point is said, okay, we're going to move on. We're going to make you the head coach. Will you stay for that? If you really wanted him that bad.
Yeah, and I don't think that they did. I think Lynn Swann has put all his eggs in the Clay Helton basket.
Yeah.
You know, with what he said in his comments on the Trojan Live show, what they said in the press releases, and after the season, he's fully behind Clay Helton. He's made that, that's his guy now. He didn't hire him, but that's his guy now. You've gone to the point where you have defended him so much that he has become your guy, even if you have not hired him. So Lynn Swann has basically said that Clay Helton's the guy that's going to turn the program around. So I don't think that there was even a thought of that.
Yeah.
Maybe someone brought it up to him, and he probably would have been like, no, Clay Helton's the guy that we're going with, and that's who we've trusted, and that's who we're putting our faith in. Now, is that the right decision? Who knows? I don't think that the right decision was to say, hey, Kliff, do you want to stay as the head coach? I don't think that was the right decision either. Because, again, he just struggled at Texas Tech. And you want to say, well, it's different. You can't recruit to Lubbock. Well, Mike Leach did it. Yeah. Mike Leach was very successful in Texas Tech. I think even when the Big 12 was better than it has been the last 5 or 6 years overall. So if you can't finish higher than fifth there, how are you going to do different in the NFL? For him it's going to come down a lot to his assistants, I think, and doing really well and finding a really good defense coordinator. But USC now has to go out and find the next guy. That's the thing. You have that. You're supposed to have that list. All right, if this one gets scratched off, we got to go move to the next one. Who's next on that list? Is there someone else that they think is innovative that you can go find and say, I really like this guy? I mean, you look at maybe the Rams offensive coordinators, their QB coach, Zach Taylor, who's just interviewed for a couple of different positions, but that's a guy I would look at. You see Jared Goff's development under Sean McVay. You look at some of those offensive guys on that team. He's in the town. That's somebody I would talk to immediately. Some other offensive coordinators out there in the college game that you can look at. But who do you go to next? Or is it going to be, well, that didn't work out, so let's go back to the comfortable hires and find a retread, someone that we're comfortable with.
Well, before we go further into that subject, I just want to remind everyone.
Long introduction.
Long introduction. I just want to remind everyone that we are live streaming on YouTube and Facebook and Periscope. I am monitoring all your comments, so get your questions in. We'll be able to answer them later on and maybe work them in our intro that we're still doing right now. But Shotgun, you kind of already alluded to it earlier. But Kliff Kingsbury was kind of the tourniquet for this USC football program. In our mentions, a lot of people were like, Kliff Kingsbury was the only thing I was excited for going into 2019. What does this mean going forward? How do fans gear themselves up for another year? If you're USC, how do you bounce back from losing your home run hire?
I think Joey Kaufman put it well on Twitter. He tweeted this out. USC sent out these, basically you're trying to fill the Coliseum next year. It's 2019. The renovations are going to be done. They need people to pay for those luxury boxes. They need people to renew their season tickets. A lot of people we heard on our mentions and on the message boards, they weren't doing it. They were done, especially when Clay Helton was coming back. A lot of fans were upset. A lot of boosters were upset. They needed something, some kind of spark to get people to renew their season tickets and all that. The big pitch from USC was Kliff Kingsbury and the kind of offense that they were going to run. So you're missing there was like a crown jewel there and it's gone. What are you going to replace it with? And I'm not sure, like Shotgun said, you could go a couple different ways. You could go out and get some other name. It's not going to be as big as Kliff Kingsbury. The issue I have is they didn't make a lot of other big moves. The other moves outside of Kingsbury were the more familiar hires, like promoting Joe DeForest, well, he's not normally been a linebacker coach. He's normally been a special teams coach. He was one of your analysts, and you promoted him. That's not a big, powerful move like Kingsbury was. Well, now your most powerful move is gone. So do they just bring in another offensive coordinator? Do they go back to the drawing board and go, you know what? We didn't make enough moves. We're not going to be able to get a big offensive coordinator as big, but we can go out and make a few other big moves. Maybe not outside of the coaches too, with the nutrition or strength and conditioning. I don't know. There's a lot of talk about that when you're talking about changing the culture. Most everything stayed the same. So maybe they go back to the drawing board and change more things. Or like Shotgun said, it's familiar and they're like, hey, Tim Drevno's on staff. We'll promote him to offensive coordinator. He was the offensive coordinator at Michigan. But I think whatever USC does, it's going to tell you a lot about how the season's going to go. They need to make another big move. They can't just go familiar. If they do, it's kind of like raising the white flag, in my opinion.
And this is why you have to have that list ready, because there's a time crunch here because you have the next signing date coming up in a couple of weeks, in a month, basically. You maybe have a week to make this hire before you make that final push for some of these recruits you're trying to bring in as well. So I think it's a big thing because you just got a commitment from Kyle Ford. However, that's not an NLI. That's not signed. That's not dotted. So if you want to keep your 5-star wide receivers you want to keep Puka Nacua, who's there as well. You want to keep Jordan Wilmore. So it came back on for 10 seconds and then froze again.
See if it works.
Someone said it was frozen, then it was working for a second.
Are we back? I think we might be back.
Hey, see you guys.
You know, Kliff Kingsbury just broke the internet, our internet. So
sorry.
We're back.
We totally lost internet in the office. Like the internet just went out here. So
yeah, it wasn't Wreck-It Ralph this time. It was Kliff Kingsbury.
Nice show.
is YouTube back?
It is.
I believe
nice.
you too. I haven't checked Facebook, but we'll be on
Facebook
that.
might be a different stream now.
Yes.
Sorry about that, guys.
Yeah, so if you are here from YouTube and want to go back to Facebook, we might be on a different stream on YouTube, so you can just, on Facebook, and you can check that out. But Shotgun, where were you? You were talking about Kyle Ford. He's not signed, sealed, delivered. He's committed, but he hasn't signed anything yet. I mean, what does this do for recruiting going forward?
Yeah, you need to hire someone pretty quickly here. You probably have about a week and a half because you don't want to get into the last week of recruiting because USC is still looking, while some other schools on the East Coast have signed their entire class, or pretty much everyone, USC is still looking to add potentially 10 guys right now because you have 20 right now signed, so probably 9 more guys at max that they can sign. So they're still looking at guys, and that includes Kyle Ford, Puka Nacua, and Jordan Wilmore, who are your 3 commits, 3 highly rated guys, 3 guys you want to get in this class. So you got
all offensive guys.
Yeah.
They're excited about Kliff Kingsbury.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like everyone at the Army All-American Bowl, from talking with Gerard and Chris Trevino and some of the guys who were down there, everyone was excited about the hire of Kliff Kingsbury, excited about the potential of playing in that offense. And I think Tom Loy even said today that 24/7 Notre Dame guy that there were even players that weren't choosing USC, but they were still excited about that hire and seeing what it would do. I was excited to talk some X's and O's with Kliff Kingsbury. Unfortunately, not going to happen now.
Yeah, we never even got a press conference with him. There was no introductory press conference. USC kind of held off on doing that. And now he's gone, so we never got to talk to him.
Is this why USC didn't want to let us interview him?
They knew he was going to leave? No, I don't think so. Thanks for coming back with us, everybody. Sorry about the little hiccup there. We had a lot of people on Periscope and stuff. That was cool. So we're back now. Thank you for checking it out. It's a strange day around USC, but it's not. I mean, this kind of stuff happens all the time. You're just covering USC. There's always something weird, always something dramatic that's going on. We've got a wild range of people being mad at Kliff Kingsbury, people being mad at USC, people being mad at the process. There's just a lot of kind of outrage out there, and I think when you look at it, it's hard for me to blame someone like Kingsbury. Like in Gerard, Shotgun brought up the Lane Kiffin to USC situation. In that case, I don't blame Lane Kiffin for taking a dream job and being head coach at USC. I blame USC for offering him the job where he probably shouldn't have done it. In this case, it's probably going to be on the Arizona Cardinals. Like, don't blame Kliff Kingsbury. He was given, there are 32 NFL franchises in the world. To become the head coach of one of those is the pinnacle of your profession. And to get that opportunity at his age, even after failing at Texas Tech, where I think he had one of the worst winning percentages of any coach in Texas Tech. That was his alma mater. They didn't want to fire him if they didn't have to, but they did. But for whatever reason, the Cardinals felt he could be the guy that brings them to the next level, gets Josh Rosen going, gets the offense going. So that would be more, to me, on the Arizona Cardinals than it is on Kliff Kingsbury. But there's a lot of hate on the USC side, maybe because there was a lot of drama and there was a lot of us stuff reporting on. There was a lot of reporters from the NFL and college that we were retweeting and discussing and talking about. And I think a lot of the USC fans just kind of got tired of it. But, they're like, oh, we're better off without him. I don't buy that at all. I think that's sour grapes. USC would have been really exciting with Kliff Kingsbury calling the plays. His offense, his scheme, with the talent USC has. I will say, I think they were going to be really, really fun to watch. Now, you'll see. I mean, maybe they can bring someone else that has a similar resume or something like that. Not the same. You would hope they can do something like that, but they have to try to make a big hire again. I think, not do the familiar thing. Go try to do something again. It won't be as big as Kingsbury, but you can do something pretty good.
Well, you missed out on some of the guys that signed. I don't know if I said this while we're still live, but some of the top offenses from this past season. You have your Alabamas, Oklahomas, and Clemson up there. Some of your top teams, but some of the other teams that were in there, like Ole Miss. Ole Miss was not a very good team, but their offense was good. Their offense coordinator's gone already. So a couple of other schools, their offensive coordinators have already left and gone to, and you've got better positions because that's what happens at this point of the year. You produce a good offense, then you're going to be able to move up in the ranks, and that's what's happened here with some of the other ones. So USC has to go out, find someone that has been doing a good job, and kind of poach them away. Maybe one of those guys that has picked up a job at when the Ole Miss offense coordinator went to North Carolina to be with Mac Brown. Hey,
right.
I mean, he has a connection with Mac Brown, but maybe that's a guy you can poach away. That's what you're going to have to do. You have to be a big boy program. Go and pay the money and poach someone away, just like the Arizona Cardinals just did to you. You got to go do it to someone else. That's how this, the whole cycle the coaching carousel.
Yeah.
It's called that because it's a big circle where the big programs get to pull away from the little ones. So
Yeah.
USC needs to be a big boy program, put on the britches, and go get somebody.
What do you guys think? Because this comes up a lot. Loyalty and how can someone leave? And they used USC and all this stuff. This is the way college football and the NFL works. People sign contracts. Yes, they sign a contract, but there's a buyout in the contract. USC didn't put a big buyout in the contract, meaning he could leave on his own. He could have wrote a check himself and quit if he wanted to because it was such a small buyout there. But you look at the people who are outraged, like, how could you do this? And I think if you say that's bad for football, that's fine. But if it's situational, it's like, well, this was bad for USC. But in 2009, when Lane Kiffin hired Clay Helton, do you know what happened there? The exact same thing. He was hired by Arkansas State to become their offensive coordinator. He was there less than 2 months, and Lane Kiffin poached him away, not even to be for an upgrade. It was a lateral move. He wasn't going to be a coordinator anymore. He was going to be the quarterback coach. He never called a play at Arkansas State. So if you are outraged then, and you're outraged now, that's fine. But if you had no problem with USC poaching somebody that was at that program and never called a play, but now it's a problem because it's happening to USC, then I just don't, that's just the way it works. If you think that's bad across the board, hey, that's fine. It's your opinion. It's reality is how it works. But USC did the exact same thing. Clay Helton did the exact same thing.
Did you have a problem with USC going and stealing Dejon Benton on early signing day from Washington State?
Yeah.
No, because that's how it works.
Deontay Burnett a couple of years ago.
Yeah, so, that's college football is big business. When there are millions of dollars being thrown around, this type of stuff is going to happen. I've had conversation with coaches in other sports where the money is not as big, and there's still more of a there's more, I guess, honor in it.
Yeah.
There's more
morals
loyalty.
or whatever.
Yeah, there's more because if someone is committed in other sports and they visit somewhere else, some coaches will be like, hey, I don't know what you're doing here. Because I had this conversation with a baseball coach at a Pac-12 school. They invited someone, and when you come on your official visit, you basically get to bring someone with you. Usually it's your family. He brought a friend with him, a teammate. The kid was committed to somewhere else, and they were like, hey, we're happy that you're here. You can enjoy all this, but we can't take you on all the normal stuff that we would take him on. You're going to have to, and they called the other coaches and let them know.
Wow.
There's a lot more of that when there's not millions of dollars in the line.
Yeah.
When there's millions of dollars in the line, it gets more cutthroat.
Yeah.
And that's just the nature of human beings and greed, that if there is a $5 million head coach, well, you know what? I can be nice if I'm making $50,000 and I'm a head coach of a high school team or whatever it may be. I can have a little bit more morals than when it's $5 million. I got to go get my money.
Yeah. What about you, Keely? What do you think?
I mean, I understand why USC fans are upset. Like you were so excited about Kliff, and that he was the Band-Aid on next year's season, and he's gone. So I understand why they're upset, but at the same time, I don't blame Kliff.
Yeah.
Like if you have an opportunity to get a head coaching position in the NFL, like I don't blame you. Go do it. And granted, I don't necessarily think that before he signed with USC, that was out there. I think going to USC helped build his stock, and thus that came out. Because some people were like, if he didn't really want to be here, then why did he even sign in the first place? I think it developed, but I don't really blame him, but at the same time, I get why USC fans are upset.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. I mean, you can be upset about it, but there's whatever your profession is, like you could switch companies and move up, quintuple your salary, and it's like, yeah, I mean, why would you say no? And that's just kind of, we live in a capitalistic society. He's getting an opportunity probably ahead of when he should. I think he could come to USC, rebuild his reputation. I think we saw Lane Kiffin. People kind of fail up sometimes for whatever reason. And a lot of it's situational, just timing. And there was great timing that everything Kingsbury did in college is hot in the NFL now. So you want to get him. But like when Lane Kiffin left and he gets a job with Nick Saban, he gets tarmacked. He ends up with Nick Saban. He wins a national championship at Alabama. Like not a lot of head coaches that get fired in that ceremonial of a way would fall upward to be an offensive coordinator at Alabama. And then he's a head coach again. Go to FAU, right? He's at FAU. A lot of it's just timing and stuff like that. It was great timing for Kliff Kingsbury. I think his agent really worked it, and he worked it well. Yeah. And he gets him. I mean, that's what, as an agent, if you're, whatever your agent is, you want them to get the best job for you possible, not what you deserve. If he can get you a better job than what you deserve, go ahead. And that's what he got.
Yeah. Yeah. If USC fans want to be mad at someone, I would throw it at the agent. He's the one who's thrown out, a bunch of stuff that's coming from him, about different rumors and different things. He kept his name hot out there. He did his job.
He did.
But that's who, as USC fans, that's probably who you should blame.
Yeah.
So
that'd be my directing of the anger, if you want.
Well, people are very curious what happens next. People want to know candidates. Right now on USCfootball.com, we actually have a offensive coordinator hot board. We list all the possibilities that USC could go after, who's still available right now. So go check that out here on the site. But right now, I mean, going forward, we kind of touched on it already. What happens next? Who do you try and get? Mike Jinks, USC's running backs coach, is he good as gone since he was a Kliff guy?
Yeah.
What are some of the dominoes that come next?
I guess look for a positive. I thought it'd be better if they allowed Kliff Kingsbury to bring in a bunch of his guys, because you want people like his offensive line coach, Mike Jinks, the running backs coach, more of his people. I think it would have been easier to implement the offense. And for whatever reason, USC limited that. And that's probably going to help them at this point now that he's gone. Mike Jinks is leaving. Well, I mean, Mike Jinks may be leaving, or he might stay. He could get promoted. I mean, who knows? We're not sure what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But I think they really have to make a decision on what they're going to do. And it's going to come down to Clay Helton, I think, which direction they want to go. And we've seen him go out on a limb and make this big move. Everything after that felt like it was pulling back. It was like, oh, you bring in Greg Burns, or oh, you promote Joe DeForest. There wasn't these kind of big splashy moves. Now he's got to get back up and dive back in the water again and try to make another big splashy move. If it's not, I just don't see. It's just going to go over really poorly, I think, with the USC fan base. It's going to be hard to win back a lot of these fans that were really excited about Kingsbury. I think he can do it, but it's going to take some aggressive moves, and I'm just not sure. I'm not sure if Clayton's going to do it. They did the one. Can they go back to the well and do it again? Probably going to have to do it multiple times this time. I don't know.
So we're not going to list all the names on the hot board. You guys can go check it out there. But some of the names, some of the names that pop off the top of the mind is Major Applewhite, is a guy that I would look at. Was at Houston. Their offense was still really good. Very kind of similar, path as Kliff Kingsbury. In my opinion, both Texas quarterbacks.
Successful college player that everyone knows.
They went back to the States, took a head coaching job at one of the lesser, Applewhite was a coordinator at Texas and then went to Houston. Houston actually went after Kliff Kingsbury themselves to try to get him as well. That's somebody I would look at. He's been talked about with the University of Miami. So can you, outbid them, or can you talk into that? I think he's a guy, that likes the spotlight and would probably like the West Coast feel of Los Angeles as well. So that might be a guy.
That one you probably have to move quickly, because it might. Yeah. The deal with Manny Diaz in Miami, people have rumored it's already done. We don't know. But they haven't announced anything, so it's if you want someone like him, you might have to be hey, call him right now,
Yeah, you got to make quick moves. Graham Harrell's another guy. Like I said, I would look at the Rams' offensive staff.
Yeah.
Some of the guys there that have been doing good things with that offense. It's not all Sean McVay's major part is, but the development of Jared Goff is why I think Zach Taylor, the quarterbacks coach, is a guy I would look at as well. There's some other offensive names
Graham
out there.
Harrell I like a lot. You mentioned him real quickly. So he's North Texas's offensive coordinator. Played at Texas, you remember him playing at Texas Tech. He's a younger coach. I think he's only he's like Sean McVay's age, actually. But I believe so. I think he's
I'll look it up.
a younger guy. We have it in the 2.0 hot board, but this kind of style, he's a hot name. I think other people are going to get him. You might be a little early on him, but I think you could go out there and make a move like that. I like this air raid kind of thing, and I think the most important thing is just bringing in someone that's going to run their system. You don't want to go back to the gumbo, to the whatever they were doing. Just you need to move on from that. Someone comes in from outside the program and brings in their offensive system. To me, that's the most important thing. That was the most important thing to me with Kingsbury. It was like he could run his own stuff. Now, he's got a great offense, but as long as he had autonomy to do whatever he wanted, you need an offensive coordinator to do that. Don't have Clay Helton be involved in the offense. He's got to focus on making this whole team, changing the whole culture of the team. Let him be the CEO, bring in an outside guy. So whoever it is, just somebody that can run their own system, to me.
Yeah, I think the air raid system is not a bad system to go with. That's where I would look initially. If you were willing to make that move already, I would look at some of the other names there. I know some of you guys have brought up. I think it's Troy Brown from Troy, who just beat LSU. That was going to be a little bit tougher, I think, to pull him out of Alabama.
No, he's a head coach. He got another job already. He already got hired by I forget. Oh, Temple might have hired him. I think Temple hired from Troy, right? The head coach. Yeah. So a lot of people thought, Temple lost Manny Diaz, and I think they ended up getting Troy. I believe so. Was it Troy Brown? Yeah, whatever. The head coach of Troy, but yeah. Neil Brown.
Okay.
Neil Brown from Troy. He went to Temple, right? Did I get that right?
Troy head coach Neil Brown went to West Virginia.
Oh, West Virginia. Okay, so West Virginia lost. Okay, yes.
Yeah, so that's not going to happen.
Sorry.
Yeah, you're not going to pull a head coach away that just hired for an offense coordinator position. Now, if you're pulling them from North Texas or from Troy rather than a Big 12 school, maybe, but I doubt it.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to go out and look at offense coordinators. You're going to look at guys that have made their mark in the last couple of years because the offenses are developing and changing a lot in the last 5 or 10 years. Who's going to be able to make their mark? And, you're going to have to do it quick. Like I said, you got to go out and make a hire in the next week and a half probably if you want to be able to – now – the recruiting class is not everything. Getting the right hire is more important than a recruiting class, but there's no reason to have the process lag on because then you're only going to lose more candidates. There's no new candidates coming out. The coaching staffs have been fired in the NFL, so those guys are out. You can go if you really want to retread. You can go to Hugh Jackson. You can look at Jeremy Bates. Former USC offensive coordinators. You can look at those guys.
Don't do that.
You could. And
you could do like Justin Wilcox too. He went and got Bo Baldwin from Eastern Washington. You could get like an FCS head coach. You could become your offensive coordinator if you wanted to. Now their offense has been pretty terrible, but he had great offenses at Eastern Washington. But someone like that, I think, someone that brings in their own system, I think would work okay.
I kind of threw out the Clemson co-offense coordinators, but Ryan shot that down real quick.
I believe both of them are like Clemson alums. It's kind of like getting. The defensive coordinator out of there. It's just, they're
Brett Venables.
Yeah, Brett Venables. Like that's more of a family, and they just kind of stick together. It'd be great to look at, but I don't know if they would go anywhere.
Now, Ryan, you were asked this. You did a whole radio tour today because of the breaking news.
Yes.
You were asked this, I believe, on AM 570.
Yes.
I think it was Fred who asked you. I'm not sure. But they said, isn't this backwards because you're kind of hoping that a splash hire at offensive coordinator will kind of save the fan base and put butts in the seats of the Coliseum. But is there a problem when you go further and you go at Clay Helton? This is kind of the problem that USC fans have is that Lynn Swann has put all his eggs in the Clay Helton basket, and now look where they are right now.
Yeah, there's a hierarchy, right? When you're talking about a college program, and the head coach is up at the top. None of the NFL teams were trying to get Clay Helton to become, and come to their staff as an offensive coordinator or anything like that. They all wanted Kliff Kingsbury. He brought something very specific. So it was kind of the balance was a little bit upset. He was the guy that everyone is interested in. He was the guy that USC was selling to try to get people to renew their season tickets and all of that. So I think you do take a risk where even when Pete Carroll was at USC, he was still, there was no one questioning Pete Carroll, but the fact that people were praising Norm Chow, I think had serious issues. Like it wasn't like Norm Chow was everything, but they would say this is Norm Chow's offense. And we saw that kind of, I guess, disrupt things a little bit. But this was so unbalanced where everyone was talking about Kingsbury and nobody was talking about Clay Helton and no one was talking about Clancy Pendergast or anything like that. It was all Kingsbury. You're running a huge risk that your offensive coordinator is the center of your football universe. And obviously with USC, now that's come crashing down because the center of your football universe is gone. So I think it starts from some of the decisions that USC and Lynn Swann made earlier. If you really felt that, Clay Helton was the main guy and you wanted to clean house and change the culture, you should have done that. They did it half-assed, basically. They basically changed one coordinator, and now that big change is gone. So I do think the balance is all upset. And a lot of that's on USC's own doing. Now it's up to them to try to put the pieces back together and figure something else out. But when everyone was focused on that offensive coordinator, it's just not going to sit right. And now you're basically held prisoner to whatever he wants because he's the main draw for everything. They need to put more people in this newly renovated Coliseum. They spent $300 million on it, all new seats, everything. That tower with $10 million suites in there and stuff. People weren't excited after the season. They became excited after Kingsbury. Now they're not, and they're going to have to figure out some way to get it back.
If you keep your head coach after a season where you struggle, you underperform immensely, the splash hires have to come from the coordinator spots. Whatever changes you make have to be the splash hires because you stuck with the man in charge. Yep. So if you want to make splash hires, you got the next best thing the next level of hires have to be what your splash hires can be. So that's why you have to go after that. And one thing you said earlier is, you expected them to give, Kingsbury a little bit more control and let him hire some more coaches. If you did that, loyalty is a lost art in college football, but the one thing that coaches normally are loyal to are their assistants and the guys they bring in with them because when you fire a staff, you're not just firing a staff, you're firing families. So each coach has his family and his kids, and like T. Martin, he was up. Congratulations to him. 20 years apart. His son Amari Rogers wins a national championship 20 years after T did.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But if T. Martin takes a job, he was rumored for Tennessee and Louisville and all these things. If he takes a job, his entire family has to reroute and go somewhere else. So you're firing an entire family. So the one thing that coaches usually are loyal to are their assistants. So if Kingsbury were to bring in Mike Jinks and he brings in 3 or 4 other guys, maybe he says, I don't want to make this move so quickly because I got to think of these other guys myself too. So maybe if you gave him a little bit more control in that, maybe he wouldn't have gone. I don't know.
Interesting. Yeah. Interesting. We have a different Facebook stream, but I'm going to read some of the questions we got earlier on the original Facebook stream, but I'm reading your guys' comments on Facebook too. But we had a question from Edwin who said, do you think there was a scenario where Kliff really wanted to be at USC, then had a few meetings, and Clay mentioned that he would have some control of the offense, and that kind of caused him to bolt a little bit?
I mean, I think it
could, but
I think
no,
it's
I don't
possible,
think that's what happened.
But I do think 100% for people that were questioning it, he wanted to be at USC. We talked to Bruce Feldman. I talked to him personally. He talked to Kliff Kingsbury and his agent. He was excited, honestly excited to come. It's like, you don't get opportunities like this. They're like, wait, you got this much talent all over the place, and you weren't very good at putting the ball in the end zone. Like, it didn't make any sense to him. It's like, it's a really easy situation, high profile, blue blood program, lots of talent, great quarterback you could work with, or one of 3. And you could come in there and be very successful. I believe he wanted to be there 100%. Not enough to skip a head coaching job. It would have made it a little easier if Clay Helton was somehow involved in it. We haven't heard anything about that. I know there's been some internet people, like tweets about it and stuff. I don't know. I mean, who knows? That would be Clay Helton not feeling comfortable that someone else is coming in and running everything. But if you're Clay Helton, like, why would you want to do something like that?
I don't think that was the scenario. Maybe it could have happened. There's a possibility, but I don't think that's the way it played out. If you saw him leave and go to a different offense coordinator position in college, then you could start that rumor. Yeah, but I don't think, I think the opportunity was just too much for him. I don't think it was coming in and being like, oh, no, Clay Helton, I don't know what he's going to do here with me.
We have multiple questions about the rumors that Lynn Swann blocked Kliff from interviewing. Brandon says, do you think that Kliff would have left even if USC didn't try to block him? Now, there's been disputed reports about whether USC tried to block him or not.
Yeah.
I know our own Gerard said that he had heard from sources that USC did not try to block him. So where's the story lie as far as blocking, not blocking, and as far as Brandon's question?
Yeah, I've heard the same things too from some USC sources. They were saying that, now that came later. I kind of feel like what USC people were saying was sort of after the fact, that it almost felt like damage control. I don't think we know for sure. Where this was coming from originally, like look who was reporting it. Mike Florio, I think Adam Schefter were the first two guys to report that he was being blocked. My guess is it wasn't even coming from like Kliff Kingsbury's agent, because some of the college people, I think, would have been involved breaking that kind of news. It was all on the NFL side. So my guess would be it's coming from like the GM of the New York Jets or the GM of the Arizona Cardinals or people in those organizations, if they are reaching out. And Lynn Swann, from everything we hear, he's not getting a lot of voices. He's making his own decisions. There's no president right now. There's just an interim president. Could there be a situation where someone called like, hey, they want to talk to him, and he's just like, no, and not even thinking about the kind of ramifications of that? But there's rules in place from the NFL that they're enforcing now, that if you have to ask permission, and maybe they kind of realize like, hey, that wasn't a good decision. If they blocked it, if they did block him, I think that's a horrible decision. If not, it's just then they needed to make some sort of statement, because it was really bad PR for USC that they were blocking this. So my gut, I mean, we've talked to USC people that say that didn't happen. I don't think the NFL reporters were making it up. I don't think it was an agent thing to try to like, but we just don't know at this point. But definitely some USC people we talked to said he wasn't blocked.
I will say that there's a lot more dishonesty in NFL sourcing. Talking with other NFL reporters and stuff than college. College coaches will talk to you, will talk about recruits and stuff because they can't talk about it on the record. Whereas NFL GMs will go on the record and you'll be like, that's not really true, is it? And you hear so many stories about, GMs and stuff and staffing guys, especially around the draft. It's much more around the draft, but, talking about, that didn't really happen. You look at the Antonio Brown situation, there was so many rumors. There was rumors about, it's because of Juju, because Juju was named team MVP that he got in that argument, and then Ben Roethlisberger comes out and like, I don't even know what you guys are talking about. I didn't see it. So there's some dishonesty in there being told. I just feel like from talking to other reporters that have that cover the NFL, have covered in the past, college versus NFL, there's more dishonesty in the sourcing there. So sometimes you hear something, you gotta check it an extra couple times. So I don't know. It sounds like the way it came out, the USC may have been doing some damage control, but I also don't trust the NFL, fully, the sources on that side to say like, everyone was getting blocked. I don't know what this happened here.
And whatever it means that USC only had a $150,000 buyout in there, I mean, to me, blocking didn't make any sense, because you weren't going to be able to prevent him from doing anything, because he could have wrote a check for $150,000 and walked out on his own. So you blocking him, it's kind of like a game of chicken or something. It didn't make a lot of sense. I mean, could you see Lynn Swann doing that? 100% I could see him doing that. I don't know. We just don't know if he did. I don't know if we ever will, because what we're going to get from the press conferences going forward in the next couple of days might be more damage control, might be more talk behind the scenes to like glass things over. We might not ever know.
From a PR standpoint, though, I know USC is not totally at fault for this situation, but how do you think they handled this? Especially when the blocking stuff came out with Lynn Swann. If USC sources are saying, hey, I don't know where they got that, that's not true, why don't you have someone like Lynn Swann or USC come out and be like, we encourage him to apply, blah, blah. It seems like USC's motto through all of this is just to be silent. How does that really help them in these situations?
It hasn't changed. This is the way USC deals with things. When this was coming out, and there was, I think Jay Glazier tweeted that he believes that Kingsbury had resigned, and that was kind of because it looked like he was going to take one of the jobs or something like that.
That was a big leap because he was interviewing.
He was interviewing, so they assumed that he had resigned because he assumed he was blocked from the other reports. It did seem kind of like a leap.
Big jump.
I email USC to get some sort of statement on that, and all we get was this like cryptic, just that's kind of what they do. They don't give you much. Well, he's still listed on the athletic director website. So because he was still listed, that means that's their answer, is like he's still employed here. So they don't for whatever reason, they just kind of keep everything in house. They don't really care about public perception, it seems, because they don't put these kind of things out there. I mean, it'd been easy to just call one of us, any of us, or just like send a text like, hey, can you put this out there? Not from me, but he wasn't blocked, blah, blah, blah. And we could tweet, according to USC source, he wasn't blocked, things like that.
Yeah.
Nothing like that really. I mean, we talked to people that weren't, close to Lynn Swann. There was, kind of sources removed from it. If someone, a USC spokesperson could have easily done that or put their own statement out. I don't know why. That's just not the way, they do things. So I don't think it's the best for PR. They come off looking poor, but that's just the way they've handled their business.
And with Lynn Swann, he hasn't done any press conferences.
True.
He hasn't really taken questions.
Not
The
at
only
all.
thing you really hear from him is USC publications, whether it be the Trojan emails that they send out, where the state of Troy or whatever it is, or him being on Trojans Live, where the narrative can be, directed in however he wants it to go. So it's not. I think it's more even than USC. I think it's Lynn Swann doesn't want to say anything. Lynn Swann doesn't have time to be concerned with that type of stuff. So I think that's more of it than even on USC side.
It's a very controlled message. I think there was a lot of negative publicity because of the way the team performed. And this just seems like an administration that's circling the wagons. It's like, hey, it's very insular. They're just doing their own thing. And there's a world going on around them. And I think they could fix a lot of the problem. Like, it's not, they've made a bunch of mistakes, but not everything of a mistake. I mean, there's some things that they've done right. And it's just, you're not really getting all of it because they're just not putting it out there. I mean, the fact that we never got to talk to Kliff Kingsbury, like, that was the most exciting thing. He never addressed the local media, not once. Like, that would have been easy, great publicity. Brady McCullough from the LA Times flew all the way to frickin' Texas to go talk to his family and stuff, put up this nice article. And it wasn't really about football at all. It was just about his background. It would have been great to follow that up with everyone talking to him about football. You just lost that opportunity. So that's USC's decision. You'd have to ask them. We don't know why they're doing it.
And it's kind of been the way they have. I mean, the entire university, you look at the investigations and stuff that, that they've had, not related to football, that the entire school is very mum. I've talked with some of the reporters that done some of those LA Times, investigations. USC is not very forthcoming in any way, especially under Nikias. There was, very little talk and stuff. So, I think that's kind of not university policy, but that's kind of the bubble that they live in.
Yeah.
And that's the way they kind of approach things, and that's the way it's been.
And as far as a statement, USC did release a statement from Clay Helton about the Kingsbury situation. He said, "I'm happy for Kliff. Anytime you get an opportunity to be an NFL head coach, it is special. He's a talented coach. That's why we brought him here. I wish him nothing but the best. USC has always attracted the best coaches in the country from all levels. We will spend the upcoming weeks finding the best possible fit for USC and our program." So they did eventually release that statement from Clay, but that was after Arizona had already released a video with
Right.
Kliff. It was like way behind, but we actually got something from Helton.
And very classy from Clay
Yes.
Helton, of course. I know a lot of the fans didn't like the second part of that where they're always going after the best coaches or whatever, but that's what he's got to do. Like, you got to hold Clay Helton to that second statement. Go find the best and the brightest out there because you got to do something to replace Kingsbury.
So, are you going to attract the best coaches? That'll be the question.
That's a great question.
So it's a good job, even with the turmoil going on. So no question about it. It's still USC's offensive coordinator. Is Clay Helton on the hot seat? Yeah, 100%. But could it be a one-year gig? Yeah. USC might have to offer a 2 or 3 year deal to an assistant to get them to come in because there's going to be some instability. You're probably going to want guarantees that, hey, I'm going to be able to run my offense. I don't want to be an offensive coordinator in name only, unless you're not going to get someone. If you're getting a powerful alpha coach, you're probably going to have to give some concessions, like a multi-year deal, being able to run your own offense. I think you're going to have to do that. But just like Kliff Kingsbury, people could come in and say, you know what, you're coming in. It's like you can buy Apple stock on a huge dip. USC's 5-7. Like that. When's the last time that happened? 2000 or something? I mean, it's been a long time. And this is not Paul Hackett roster. This is closer to Pete Carroll roster. There's a lot of talent on this team. So you take a really low USC team, you have a lot of control, you have a lot of talent, you can turn that into something really special. So I think it's still an attractive job if you go out and try to get another alpha coach. Kliff Kingsbury is an alpha. He's someone that everybody wanted. Go do that again. If USC is a little snake bitten, like, you know what, we don't want to get somebody in demand that's completely doing the wrong thing. So they got to do it, but I think it can be attractive. Will everyone want it? No, but you can do some things with a multi-year deal, full control. They see the talent. They see the expectation level compared to normal. I think it's still an attractive job.
If I'm a coach at another school, maybe, if you're at a Mountain West or you're not at a group of 5 school and you've done pretty well, I'm telling my agent, throw my name out there with USC. Yeah. See if there's any interest, and that's how the business works. You put your name out there for things as well. So we'll see what names start floating around a little bit more once we, get into it a day or two. Things could go really quickly, but that's not usually the case with USC. I mean, if you wanted like a guy like Major Applewhite, you may have to move really quickly on it. However, usually USC takes their time a little bit and slow plays a little bit more. Even if they already have their guy in-house with Clay Helton, we're going to hire hire the group to come and help us with the search and everything. We'll do a national search. Yeah. So that takes plenty of time, even though they knew who they wanted the whole time. So we'll see how long the process plays out and how that affects recruiting as it goes too.
In that same vein, someone on YouTube brought up, even if Kliff was the best match for USC, should have Swann and Clay done an actual search instead of just calling up Kliff for a possible scenario like this where they'd have a backup? Or do you blame them for just taking Kliff when they did?
No, 100% take Kliff. Don't blame them at all for that. It pretty much fell into their lap. That was great. Now, if you did feel he might go somewhere, then get, like Shotgun said, get your list going. But I wouldn't blame them. You can blame them a lot of stuff. That was the best hire, the strongest hire we've seen Clay Helton do by a mile. And it's unfortunate for USC. The best 2 hires he made, Dylan McCullough was great for a year, ended up leaving and going to the Kansas City Chiefs. They're doing really well now. And then Kliff Kingsbury lasts for 34 days or whatever it is. But that shouldn't discourage you from getting coaches that other people want. Like, you keep getting coaches that people don't want. Yeah, no one's going to poach them because no one wanted them when you got them to begin with. So this is something where just go out and get somebody else that's valuable. There's probably a few names that USC fans don't want to see. Who got fired by your Atlanta Falcons? Steve Sarkisian. He's an offensive coordinator. Could you imagine him coming in? I think I'm not even joking. Like, that's something that this administration could consider. He used to work.
No, they just had a settlement with him. Like, that's not gonna.
I think he lost the lawsuit. I think.
I think so. Yeah, you're right. But they just went through litigation with him.
That's under the.
Still pay legal fees, I'm sure.
Mike Sanford, was it Mike Sanford? Yeah,
Sanford.
So he was just fired at Western Kentucky, which normally wouldn't be a bad candidate, but the whole Western Kentucky thing is like the death. You don't want to talk about that. If that name comes up, fans are going to be really upset.
This continuity, Western Kentucky continuity.
There is some continuity, stability.
No,
it's not. Yeah,
no.
So there's there's going to be some oh my god grown names. USC cannot afford an oh my god grown name. Like, they can't do that. If that's what comes out, because most of the hires after Kingsbury were sort of like that, either like or and you can't do that for this offensive coordinator.
Sound effects. So everyone stop commenting Norm Chow. It's not going to happen.
No.
Again, if you guys just joined us or joined us a little bit later, then there is a coaching hot board on the website, uscfootball.com, so you guys can check it out there with more of our candidates as well. And it's expounded on why they might be a good candidate, what their past history is. There's candidates out there. I've even seen Mark Helfrich's name thrown out there.
That would be interesting. Yeah.
He's currently a offense coordinator in the NFL with the Chicago Bears. However, he is offensive coordinator in title rather than in calling plays.
Right.
So if he wants to call plays,
like doing it right.
Yeah, Matt Nagy's calling the plays there. So that's a possibility. But that's the type of thing you have to do. You have to go out and poach it from somewhere else. You can't be looking around and being like, all right, who all just got fired that we know really well?
Yeah.
Or that we know from previously being at USC.
It worked out perfectly for Kingsbury. It's probably not going to do that this time. So you're going to have to do a little work. No, we haven't been reading the Periscope ones. I'm sorry. Brian said, can USC use that $150,000 buyout to get Clay some more support staff members? And I think that's an important part of this. It's not going to be a buzz. Not the 150. Yeah, it's a joke. But I think you have to bolster the support staff for sure after all this. But that's not going to sell tickets or anything or get people excited. You got to do the big stuff first. They did the big stuff with Kingsbury. We thought there'd be more. There wasn't. They were just kind of filling in the spots that were left. a promotion or two, and it was not as exciting. And then there really wasn't much after that. There wasn't any support staff talk. There wasn't any strength and conditioning, nutrition, any of that stuff. You thought something might be different. None of it was. I think that's an important part of it, though. They have to, once they get all the coaches in place, make sure they all have the support people that they need. Because you look at Clemson, you look at Alabama, they have an army of support people, and USC has just a couple.
Alabama's analysts are all, a lot of time former head coaches or former coordinators. Go out and if USC gets a guy as an analyst, so not even on the field coaching, but someone like Greg Schiano, who's just got booted out of Ohio State, that's when you know they're making power moves. Until then, we know that they're running it. You're basically running on a budget.
Yeah. If you're a USC fan, and Keely, did you bring this up? I forget where we talked so much. You brought it up at some point. But it might have been Dan Weber when we were doing our podcast, when we had the Clay Helton conference and he apologized for losing a couple of close games. That's not I don't read well into that, because that's basically saying, look, guys, we were really close. That's not what you want from, if you wanted what Lynn Swann said was change this, change that, culture, discipline. That's like make big changes. This was more Clay Helton being like, hey, we were really close. We almost beat a pretty bad Cal team or an Arizona State team or a 2-8 UCLA team. That's not what USC fans want to hear. They want to hear, we want to be on the Clemson, Alabama level. Being close to beating UCLA is not that. So making a couple minor changes, that's the only concern I would have as a USC person. If you read between the lines of what Clay Helton was saying, that seemed to be backing off a little bit from, we're changing a lot of stuff. It was more like, hey, we're close. We'll win those close games next year.
Yeah, that for me inspired no confidence between what we saw in the offseason moves. If you're going to compare, you yourself are going to bring up the Notre Dame model, quote unquote, and not actually do what Notre Dame did and keep most of your staff. And then when asked about it, like you said, say, oh, I'm sorry we lost a couple of close games. That's not the mindset of someone who's following the Notre Dame method or following what the athletic director said. So to me, I feel like going forward, after having this disappointing thing happen with Kliff, I don't think they're going to try and do much to really change, because I feel like if I were Clay, not that I am, but I would try and use this opportunity to really reevaluate everything. You have an opportunity to say, hey, maybe we didn't make enough changes as we should have. Maybe we do this. Maybe it's too late to do that. But I think this deserves taking a second look at everything and reevaluating everything. But I don't know.
100% agree. And we'll see. But the trend was, after Kingsbury not being aggressive with the hires, and then the only media availability we had was not very positive in that direction too. So is he pulling back and being like, no, we don't want to go out here? Is he going to be more comfortable? We're going to have to wait and see. But Keely kind of feels like he's not. What do you think? Is it going to be a bold move or not so bold move?
I think you need to go. I don't think it has to be
make a
bold or not. I think you need to go and find a good mind. Like Graham Harrell, I don't think is a bold move, but I think that's a good hire.
I would consider that bold. Like
hiring a guy from the North Texas offense coordinator. Just looking at that. Don't say the name. Hiring the North Texas offense coordinator. Is that a bold move? No.
As long as he's coming in and running it himself. Like, I think that's the differentiator there, is like bringing in anybody that runs his own thing. I think would be, in this case, it would be bold. Now, maybe some USC fans are like, that's not bold enough. You could be right. But I think at this point, you got to at least do that.
I think you got to go get someone that's a bright mind. Go find someone, look at Jed Fish from that Rams offensive staff, a couple of the guys that we mentioned before. You look at some of those other coordinators across the country that have had really good offenses. You got to go find a bright mind that can make adjustments in game. That's what killed USC this past year.
Yeah.
They were able to start off really strong in some games. They were really good going into the halftime some games, but they weren't able to make those in-game adjustments that needed to happen, in real time, rather than we didn't see it on film.
Right.
Yeah.
We hadn't seen it on film, and what happened? Well, we didn't see it on film, and we didn't make the adjustments quick enough. So I think that's what they need to find. So if that's a name, if Mike Sanford can do that, go get him. But it doesn't matter that he's from Western Kentucky. I know fans won't be happy about it, but you got to get the offense better. The offense has to play better. Then the defense will, be off the field a little bit more. Give them an opportunity to play better, and then they can be more aggressive. You forget that when you're on the field a lot as a defense, you wear down. So instead of going after that pick six potential on the outside, I'm a half step slower, so I'm just go for the tackle.
Yeah.
So there's things like that play into working together. But I think that you got to get the offense on track. The offense should not be where it was last year. Even with a freshman quarterback, JT Daniels was good enough that the offense shouldn't be. If you ran the ball effectively, he becomes more effective. So you just got to find an offense that works. The one they just had doesn't work.
Yeah.
The whole gumbo thing, picking and pulling, using formations for one play in a game. No. Find something that builds on each play so that you can use plays over and over. I mean, you look at the old Chip Kelly offense. They ran a bunch of different formations, the same plays, and same 6 plays or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So you got to find something that can build on each other and get the offense on track. Once the offense is on track, the team will be back to at least an 8 or 9 win team.
We had some Periscope people talking about Jeff Tedford. Yeah, I think he's a great offensive mind, but he's a head coach. I mean, you would have to hire him as the head coach at USC. He's not coming to be the offensive coordinator. And my gut is he doesn't leave Fresno State. I think he's going to stay there. But they won 12 games last year, and USC fans are going to see him in the opener next year. Well, who will be the offense against him? We don't know yet.
Steve on Facebook brought up, he said, don't forget the student athletes and all this. Now, if you were an offensive player, I'm sure you were very excited to play for Kliff.
Yes.
I mean, what does that do for guys like JT Daniels, maybe Jack Sears, hoping for that quarterback competition? What does this do for the morale of the team, especially the offensive players?
No, I don't think it helps morale. I think he was well liked. No, they didn't get to do much. I don't even think they could have meetings and stuff yet. But they're from sources we talked to. Yeah, morale doesn't really help morale. And I think for a guy like Jack Sears, where Clay Helton kind of made it clear there wasn't going to be a competition for the quarterback. He said he was excited to see JT Daniels just working as the first team quarterback and not having to compete for it. And Kliff Kingsbury changed that and said we're going to have an open competition. Matt Fink, Jack Sears, yes. You don't know. If they do something familiar, if it goes back to Clay Helton calling the plays, there's not a quarterback competition anymore. We know who Clay Helton likes, so that's going to stay the same. So, yeah, I don't think it's great for morale. It's for the student athletes there, and it's not fair for, guys sign letters of intent, and then their coach ends up, coach, maybe they were excited to go with Kliff Kingsbury, and now that he's not going to be there anymore. So it's really up to Clay Helton and Lynn Swann to get someone that's people will still get excited about. It's not just about appeasing fans. You want to score a lot of points, but he's got to coach a lot of these student athletes. So hopefully they can find somebody that these guys will get excited about too.
Shotgun.
I'm ready for rapid fire whenever you guys are.
Rapid fire? Go for it, Shotgun.
Crap, we're after,
we're already past
we already
the
passed
top of
the hour. Sorry, I didn't realize that.
Justin said, who's next to leave USC? Ryan Abraham? Please don't leave us, Ryan. We need your food analogies.
I'm here. I haven't done any today. I'm a little under the weather, so I was trying to eat my soup. The one thing happened when the internet went out. I got to eat some more of my soup. That was good.
Jasper asks, as Kyle Ford signed his LOI, it's actually an NLI now, guys, National Letter of Intent, rather than just Letter of Intent, or is he just a verbal? He is just a verbal. Will he likely stick with USC or go to Oregon or Washington? I think that depends on who you hire.
Yeah.
He was excited about the Kliff Kingsbury hire. I think all the receivers were excited about that. If I'm a receiver, I'd be excited. You're going to throw the ball more. You're going to get more opportunities, more guys on the field. Even as a freshman, that's more opportunities potentially. So, I think it comes down to who you hire, what kind of offense you're going to try to implement, or do you use the same offense? Then it becomes a big question. If
you don't know, Kyle Ford's a 5-star Orange Lutheran wide receiver, now who committed over the weekend at the All-American Bowl. So big. They signed Brew McCoy. He already signed, so he's a 5-star athlete. Now you got Kyle Ford. So 2 offensive players. One guy signed, one's not. So the one that isn't could obviously go somewhere else.
Yeah, and they currently have 2 wide receivers and a running back who are committed but not signed. So we'll see how that offense plays out and how they use those last 9 scholarships as they come down the stretch. David, is there any hope for USC?
Of course. There's
hope.
like there's no hope. I'm sorry if it comes off as too.
Hope.
It's not like we're trying to be too negative, but there's just a lot. USC's just made some really weird, and most cases not great decisions. Some bad luck has happened. It's all kind of it all goes together. But yeah, there's still hope. I mean, it's still a very talented roster. You could still go out and get somebody really good. You could still win a whole bunch of games next year, but you gotta have to make some big decisions that we haven't necessarily seen this administration make big right decisions before, but they still could. And so, yeah, Kingsbury was right. So you got to keep doing that.
Which goes to a combine of 2 questions from Loser. Has there ever been a more incompetent ADs than Pat Hayden and Lynn Swann. And also David Cisneros asked, can we just get rid of Lynn Swann? You know, I think a lot of your problems start with your athletic directors and the hires that they have made and the hires of the athletic directors that do not have previous experience as athletic directors. So, hey, can people learn on the job? Sure. Can people be good without prior experience? Sure. Do you want to continue to repeat the pattern, though, when it is not working? No.
Yeah. It's a very competitive landscape. I tweeted this out earlier. The last time USC hired an experienced athletic director was 1984. That was the last time they hired a non-USC football player. So that was Mike McGee. He was a head coach at a couple of places. He was an athletic director. He got his doctorate. That's the kind of guy you hire as an athletic director. USC hasn't done that since 1984 when they hired him. The people you're competing against all do that every time. They don't hire former football players. They hire experienced guys. Then that's why USC is struggling right now. They're not putting people in the right place in those cases.
And I just thought 1984 was a book about Big Brother. Who knew?
No.
AA asked, are you guys surprised about the Kliff Kingsbury news? Not necessarily, because of all the rumors that have been back and forth. And Percy asked, when did you guys understand that the exit talk was real? USC should have never been blindsided, right?
I mean, I think it became real in the last week or so, where it was real potential, right? I mean, so I think USC should know at least what we were knowing. So,
but I also
get
think
that list going.
I also think it moved quickly in the last 24 hours.
Yes.
From they're blocking him. He's going to interview. He's going to be hired by the Cardinals, who it sounded like was going to be his second choice initially. And he had more interest in the Jets, but I guess after the interview, you interview with people, you find out a little bit more about the program. That may have had something to do with it, from what we were hearing. So yeah, in the last 24 hours, a lot of things shifted. So I think it moved pretty quickly in that regard. So in that regard, is USC blindsided? Maybe, but as I've said on previous episodes, you should always have a list. There should always be a list there of, I like this guy. Even if this guy just got hired by, I said the Ole Miss guy got hired by North Carolina. Well, I like that guy still. I'm going to have him on my list, and I'll inquire about him at least. But that's the problem with USC. It doesn't seem like those things are always there.
We cover USC. We're not part of USC, and we had a list. So a month ago. So USC should probably have a list. If we just did it because that's what we do as covering them, they should probably have one because that's their job.
Yes.
I just assume that who cares is like an Eure character. Who cares? You guys are doing a great job with all the mess. I'm just curious, is this the most dysfunction you guys have ever seen this program in?
Okay, no, because we were talking about this earlier. I need to do an article on the most dysfunctional moments in USC football history, just of the past decade. I mean, the thing, like, this is crazy. Like, this would be the craziest story. I had the Alabama publisher texted me earlier, like, sorry, man, just seems to always happen to you guys. Like, yeah, we're used to it by now. Yeah. But this might not even be in the top, 15 of craziest moments. Like, probably.
Crazy, yeah.
It might not. I mean, there's got to be 3 or 4 Sark ones, and he was only here a year and a half. The Josh Shaw stuff. I mean, Pete Carroll leaving was absolutely crazy. Lane Kiffin walking out of the press conference or deflating footballs or getting a black eye at the Sun Bowl and having to walk around in a hoodie and sunglasses. I mean, there were so many, tarmacking him. I mean,
Pete Carroll with Mark Sanchez.
Mark Sanchez being so pissed that he was going to leave. So many weird things, the Sam Darnold. I mean, there's just lots of crazy stuff that has been going on. This is it might be in the top 10, probably not. I would say maybe top 15.
Yeah, it would depend on what qualifier you use. Is craziest or shocking, or what qualifier you use there to how the list plays out.
There's something every couple of months. There's something that no matter what you're doing, it's like you got to drop everything. I was like, oh my God, my whole day became this. Like, it's just for the last 2 days, it's just this happens. I've been sick, so I was home. I've been on the message boards the entire time, and it's just still not enough. Like, I haven't even looked at it for the last 6 hours because all I've been doing is talking about it. And this just happens all the time. Emergency freaking tunnel vision again. Why?
The first one of 2019, the inaugural.
This is what we do. So we have to do it.
As Andy Kamenetsky from the Kamenetsky brothers from ESPN Radio tweeted us, isn't everyone an emergency tunnel vision
as
now?
Of late? Yeah, it's pretty funny. I have some rapid fire to add in. Christopher says, why was the buyout so low?
It's because the agent, and especially one of the hottest coaches, they have all the leverage.
Yeah, I think they had leverage. And I think USC, you're talking about an agent going up against a green athletic director. That's not a fair fight.
And also, because it's a private university, we won't get to look at the contract unless someone leaks it to us. there may have been a clause in there about, and the buyout may have been much less for him taking a job as a head coach of an NFL team versus an offensive coordinator position for an NFL team. So I think that was what USC was probably more concerned about initially, because who would have really expected him to fail at Texas Tech, get the USC job, and then get a head coaching job within a month and a half.
Yeah.
Walker Lamer says, can you guys get Clay Helton on Tunnel Vision to talk through what he's planning for 2019?
We could try. We tried to get Kliff Kingsbury for our podcast, and USC's not been very common. But normally we ask Clay Helton to do something like we've had him on a live show before.
We've had him when we did the Trader Joe's special.
At the Trader Joe's event. Yeah, that was on campus. We could try to do something like that again. Maybe we could broadcast on campus and do it. But he's the nicest guy. He's usually very accommodating, but USC's been they're not been, Lynn Swann's never available. We never got Kliff Kingsbury, so I don't think they would do it, but we could try.
And then we have a question from Wagner who says, any updates/rumors on change to the strength and conditioning coach, which right now.
Anthony Moreno also said, so I take it we're not getting a new strength and conditioning guy now?
I mean, we haven't heard really anything. And that's the thing. When they made the big Kingsbury move, they filled in the rest of the staff. And that was it. And then we didn't hear anything else. Didn't seem like anything else was going to happen.
And Dan Weber actually asked Clay after the presser, the early signing day presser, are you going to make any more moves? And he was like, no.
Yeah. So it just didn't seem like that was in the cards. If, like Keely said, you kind of hit the reset button and go, all right, we need to make some changes. I think that would be smart. I don't think they made enough changes before. I think it would be smart to do it. So you get someone as good as you can as the offensive coordinator, and you make some other more key changes throughout the staff. I think that would be great. Don't know if they will, but I think it'd be the right move.
Yeah, you could reassess and say, okay, our crown jewel of this offseason just left us. Yes. We need to reassess, and maybe we need to make extra changes. We need to look at this again and see if we went at this right and try to do it again. You basically have to, you refresh. You're basically back where you were in November. Now you got to figure out, is this enough, what we have currently, or do we need to go out and do a little bit more?
Yeah.
Yeah. Dave says, did you guys already address the ridiculous he's still on our website comment?
We talked about that. People asked about USC. That's just kind of how they're just sort of in a bubble. And when we try to get a statement from that, that's usually the kind of language we receive. So I tweeted it out. I think Morales tweeted. I think everyone kind of got the same. If you reached out for a statement from USC, that's the statement you got. Not, he's still employed. It's like, he's still on our athletic website. But whatever reason, that's the way they handle these things. And that's what they've always done. It's not like anything different because of Kingsbury. That's just the way they always handle those things.
And semantics are important, obviously. So that keeps them from saying, yes, he's still employed, and then a report coming right back out and then looking bad on them for saying, well, I thought you just said he was still no. Yeah. So it's much easier for them to say, hey, he's still on the website. We haven't made any changes there.
To be fair, he was still on the website after he posted a video of being the Arizona Cardinals head coach, and then Keely
finally was out to lunch.
They fixed the website, and then Keely tweeted out I think you were the first person to tweet out the side by side.
I was refreshing
that
thing
F5
all day.
The whole time. Yeah.
Not that big of a deal, but I wanted to refresh it. Scott says, would a good compromise between a bold choice and a Helton-esque choice be Matt Leinart as OC?
No. That's no.
That's bold. That's bold.
I don't know about
but that's bold. That's bold, and
Leinert's
I don't want to say stupid, but it's not a very intelligent decision because you're going out to get someone who's not coached at all, as far as I know. I think only his son Coles is
like a 12-year-old.
I think that's the only teams that he's coached. So don't get anyone with no experience.
Go back to my original rule. That breaks every rule. He's He's never done this before. You get an experienced coach and someone that doesn't know the fight song. Just go back to those two rules. You'll be fine.
That's bold, though. I'll give it to you. That
would be bold, yes. But that would be very dumb. Bold. And I like Matt a lot, but he wouldn't do it. So,
I got a couple more. Ryan asked, do you think Oluwalo Batiku Jr., who transferred former five-star outside linebacker, because Jalen Phillips is coming to USC? No, I don't think they're related at all. If Jalen Phillips does come to USC, I don't think it would have affected Wole's decision. I think it was just time for him to make a move. Yeah. I don't think that with the hip surgery, he felt that he was going to be able to get right into the rotation. So now he gets a fresh start going somewhere else. We'll see how he does there. Good luck to him. One of the nicest guys.
Great kid. You wish him the best.
Yeah.
And his songs are great, too.
Yeah, he's got some bangers, too.
He does.
Jasper, when is Swann going to show his face and say something?
I don't know. I mean, the only time you get him is like after a football game, you get a couple of questions. Like some of the reporters would grab him. Like we've requested him. He doesn't. It's like he doesn't want to speak to us or doesn't speak to the media. I think it's just like this control thing, and he's just up in his tower. It's more about declarations from him, And what's the line that everyone makes fun of? The let me be clear, or it's like just it's really strange. It's like he's never been an athletic director before. I guess because he hasn't. Now, at some point, you got to address the media and answer some questions, and he's not doing it.
I will try next basketball game. USC plays UCLA next at home, so I'll try there.
That's the only reason you should go to a basketball game if you can get something like that.
Get out of here. Kevin Porter Jr. practiced today. He may be back. Ricky.
Moving on.
Hey, Keely, do you expect a few decommits from the 2019 class? There's only 3 commits currently right now.
Yeah.
So a few, usually it's a couple is 2 and a few is 3. So that'd be all 3 of them? I don't think so.
No.
Yeah, we don't know at this
Nakua,
point.
though, was iffy even before the Kingsbury stuff.
If you didn't sign and you were committed, there's always going to be some sort of question, like why did you do that?
And hey, if you didn't sign, now you get to see who the new offense coordinator is. So if you did sign, you're probably like, man, I should have waited.
And Kyle Ford is looking pretty smart. Like, hey, I could wait, and if he likes the offensive coordinator, just stick with your commitment. If not, move on.
Colette asked, why not just fire Helton? And Trek also asked, could USC fire Helton if they have an opportunity to hire a good head coach? Don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it, but we get that a lot. People, they're just holding on to that hope. But Lynn Swann he drew his line in the sand. I don't see him changing that at this point.
You're not going to suddenly say, well, Kliff Kingsbury left, so the head coach has got to go.
Right.
That's not going to be, that thought process is not going to go over very well, and it would not, I don't think that would even come up. So, regardless of what you guys want, now I've seen John Harbaugh's name and stuff. Would that be a good decision? But John Harbaugh just made the playoffs, so I don't think he's going anywhere there. I think they just signed an extension, actually. I'm not sure. I'd have to check that. But those type of things, you'd be like, yeah, that's a good head coach. Is it an upgrade over Helton? Probably. But are you going to trash Helton's contract and pay that buyout and do everything else there? That becomes the question. Yeah. You usually don't see coaches that have been re-upped or whatever it may be, them come out, unless Nick Saban comes in, like, all right, we'll move you out of the way. That just doesn't happen.
What's changed between when Lynn Swann gave him the vote of confidence or whatever, or said he's coming back, and was it December, November, late November, I guess, to now? Like, nothing's changed as far as football goes. Like, why would you didn't fire him then. I don't know why you'd fire him now.
When's the last time you saw a head coach be replaced without being fired? Like fired or retired, like that's... there's an opening. I can't even think of one off the top of my head where someone was just replaced.
Yeah.
I mean, Bobby Bowden was kind of pushed out for Jimbo Fisher, but
it's coming up a lot with the fans and stuff. But I don't like it's shocking. I don't see that happening.
It's just not how these things play out. Sorry, guys. That was my last one.
Wow. I think we covered it. People are yelling at me to bring up names, but people are like, "Don't say those names, Keely," because they're like bad.
Some really awful names.
Yeah.
And stuff.
So I'm gonna X-nay that.
Yeah, thanks for all the. We had a lot of people on Periscope and
Facebook and on YouTube.
So thank you. Sorry I didn't get to read
watching.
as many Periscope ones.
Any final thoughts before we wrap it up?
One last thing, Bubba Bolden, if you'd like to update. That was
yes. So we put it on the peristyle, but Monday was USC's first day of classes for the spring semester, and Bubba Bolden was not at USC per a source in the Bubba Bolden camp. He is still at his junior college as planned. The feel I get is that the news that USC is reopening the investigation didn't really change any of their plans as of now. Just because they were reopening the investigation doesn't mean that they won't still rule against Bubba, so it's kind of a risk in that sense. So right now, he's at his junior college and thus won't be at USC for the time being.
That's your update on Bubba Bolden?
That's your Bubba Bolden update.
One positive for USC football, the NFL playoffs going on right now, and there's some guys that are doing pretty well, and Uchenna Nwosu gets the strip sack at the end. The Chargers still in it. The Rams got 3 USC
Antoine
players.
Woods.
They're in it. Antoine Woods is the starting defensive nose tackle for the Dallas Cowboys. They'll be in town this week.
They got their first playoff win in forever, right?
One of the funniest tweets was, he said as soon as he saw as soon as the Philadelphia Eagles game ended, all of a sudden he had like 500 ticket requests and, people texting him and stuff because they're coming to LA. So look forward to seeing him back in the Coliseum. Hopefully he does well. Also Nelson Aguilar with the Eagles, they're still in it. So some Trojans still out there, a couple other guys that I'm not mentioning, but support those those
Allen,
guys
I
as
think,
well.
blocked the
Oh, yeah,
punt or
Buck
something.
Allen with the block punt as
Yeah.
well. So the Ravens are no longer in it, though.
Right. But that was nice he blocked the punt.
Got
That's
put out
cool.
by the Chargers.
Ryan, we need a buzzer beater food analogy from you, or else it's not a tunnel vision show yet.
Crap. It usually has to be some whatever the
You said
topic
eggs
is.
in one basket. Does that really count? Not really.
That's a little bit. We'll come up with something better for next time. But this is okay. So that you've got this grand opening of the restaurant
Oh,
is
no.
coming in, and yeah, your restaurant closed. The owner of the restaurant is just embattled. He's not doing very well. But you hire this hotshot chef. All your marketing material is coming on this guy. He's got Michelin stars. He's coming in, and the menus, you're printing out his face is all over the menus and everything he's going to make. He makes this, great risotto, whatever it is. He's coming in there, and then he leaves. He gets poached by a bigger restaurant in New York, and he's flying across the country. And you're like, oh crap, what am I going to do now? Now you can go back and go get some dude from Chili's, or you can go out and get some other Michelin star guy. That's what USC and Clay Helton need to do. They're the failing restaurant, and they need to go out and get that great chef from somewhere. I know you lost one. I know it sucks. I know his picture's on the menu, but go get another guy, put his picture on the menu, and move this thing forward.
Because there's more than one great chef out there. You
There
got to
are
go
more.
find another one.
How is that
You
for the top of my head?
Great job. Well done. I'm trying to find a comment. Someone asked me a comment and wanted me to say it before we get off air, so someone else talk about something.
One of the things interesting about Kliff Kingsbury being hired by the Cardinals, the NFC West is now going to have a 32-year-old Sean McVay, a 39-year-old Kliff Kingsbury, 39-year-old or Kyle Shanahan, not even Mike's son,
Yeah.
and what is it? Pete Carroll is now
68 or something?
67, 68.
Yeah, he's up there. He's pushing 70.
So he's old enough to be all of their dads, literally.
Yeah. It's pretty good. You think, and Pete Carroll's like a spry, youngish guy, but he's way, way older. When you see with like Sean McVay and like, who was the defensive coordinator? Was it Bump Phillips? Oh, who's the? No,
Wade Phillips.
Wade Phillips. Bump Phillips. His dad. Wade Phillips. That's really old Houston Oilers days. But yeah, Wade Phillips. And it's like the difference in age is pretty crazy. And the fact that Kingsbury's 39, it's not, it's young, but it's not like McVay young is pretty dang young,
And that's part of the thing. Like everyone's talking about how young he is. It's like he's older than I don't remember if he's older than Kyle Shanahan. They're the same, both 39 years old, but they're at the same age as two other coaches in the division, so it's not that old.
There's funny. They said something about he's like, I think he was a senior when like Larry Fitzgerald was a freshman or something like that. So
Wow.
he's one of the guys he's coaching. Like it's like in the same. They would have been in the same school at the same time. Like one of the dudes. So that's kind of interesting. McVay. There's guys older than him. On the on the Rams. So
yeah, Andrew Whitworth. Those guys.
Yeah.
There's definitely some yes. So Keely, if you found it,
did
now.
you find it?
No, because I asked Corey to tell me what it was, and he told me scroll up. Well, I couldn't.
Hey,
It
Corey.
timed out, Corey.
Sorry,
There's a lot
Corey.
that I'm handling right now.
It
So,
would've been a
Corey,
lot
you're not getting
easier.
your question answered.
It would have been a lot easier for you to just say what the freaking question was, Corey, and not say scroll up. She's doing a lot of things over there.
Thank you, Ryan.
Someone said they should hire Will Smith and have a Fresh Prince offense.
Okay,
All right.
sounds good.
That's bold, I guess.
Hey, Beverly Hills.
In West Philadelphia. No, okay. That's going to wrap it up for our emergency tunnel vision. Since today is a Tuesday, that means we're not going to have our tunnel vision on Thursday.
Unless
sorry.
something crazy happens between now and then.
Let's hope for everyone's sake that it doesn't. But that's Shotgun Spratling. That's Ryan Abraham. I'm Keely Eure. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next time.
See ya.